I got Starbucks earlier and I got a venti iced chestnut praline latte. I have two things I want to say about it. One, it was almost $7. Two, it's going to make me probably liquid shit in the middle of this episode. And three, I ordered it on the app and I forgot to say I didn't want whipped cream. And if you're watching, you can see that they gave me the dome lid because there was whipped cream on it, because obviously, I didn't clarify, so that one's on me. Well, I feel like there is nothing more embarrassing than carrying around a dome lid when it's not a Frappuccino, because drinking a Frappuccino is social suicide, in my opinion. And the sheer thought of someone thinking that maybe I was carrying around a Frappuccino, a venti Frappuccino, makes me not want to be alive. It makes me want to unalive myself. But that is fine. Anywho, today, you don't want to know what? If you bitches haven't had a chestnut praline latte, feels fucking illegal to never have had one. Also, I'm at home right now. If you're watching, if you're not and you're just listening, which most of you do, which is totally fine, I'm at home right now. I'm at my parents' house. I'm at my dad's house right now. So if you're watching, I'm in a different environment. This setup is so much more visually pleasing because it's brighter and it's not as dark and dingy. I have 5 windows on me right now. This is very lovely. But my dog's sleeping. The moment she wakes up is the moment this episode will be over, because she will want in and out of the house. She wants to go outside. She sees how nice it is outside. However, she can't hear me right now because she's old, and I think she might be deaf now, which is really sad, but also really great for me. So, yeah, what are we talking about today? Today, let me get my little notes out, because I do write down notes, because I am a professional podcaster. That's a joke. Oh, dear God. All right. So today I'm talking about balancing relationships. I kind of want to start this series where I talk about how I have the series a guide to. I want to start Jesus Christ. That was really fucking annoying. I'm so sorry. I want to start a series, another one called Balancing for Beginners, because there's so many things in our life we have to balance, and one of them is relationships. Other ones that I thought of kind of were balancing the thought process of seeing the good and the bad in people, and how you have to balance the two. Also balancing, I think, I don't know, there were a couple other ones that I thought of, and I, as you guys know, like to talk about these kind of things and give you unsolicited advice, because I'm fresh out of therapy as of 15 minutes ago, and I'm feeling philosophic. So buckle up for some unsolicited advice, whether you like it or not. So there are 3 types of relationships that I'll be talking about today. Obviously, there's a million different kinds of fucking relationships, co-workers and bosses, but I'm not gonna be talking about the 3 main ones: friendships, romantic relationships, and family relations. And I'll be kind of comparing them and kind of giving some advice on, what not to do and how you can kind of tweak your behavior to have healthy relationships between all three of them. So first, I want to talk about friends versus, I'm going to say lovers, or your partner, or your, even if it's just someone you're talking to. I am very guilty of kind of ghosting my friends whenever I get into a new relationship. My friends know what I'm talking about. Sorry, guys. But I know what it's like when you get into a new relationship and all you want to do is hang out with that person. Excuse me. And all you want to do is hang out with that person, and that's understandable because it's something new and it's exciting and you're probably horny for each other, and you just want to find out everything possible about this person. And so it's understandable when you're very preoccupied with this new partner. But it's really important to maintain those friendships too, because worst case scenario, it doesn't work out with you and the person you're dating or talking to. And if you've been a shitty friend and you have valued a partner over your friends and haven't maintained those relationships, you're going to be fucked. Now, if you have really, really good friends, they're going to be like, hey, babe, we haven't seen you in like 2 weeks. Get your ass over here. We're going out tonight and we're having some drinks, or even just like hanging out, or even just talking, catching up on the phone. Like if it's a long distance friendship situation. So like those are the good friends that you want to keep. However, you can't just rely on your friends to say, hey, where you at? Where have you been? The phone goes both ways. So you have to remember that it is important to say, hey, I am going to go hang out with my friends. Say this to your lover. I'm going to go hang out with my friends. Now, if your partner, the reaction you get from your partner when you say you're going to go hang out with your friends is a big indicator of if they're a good partner or not. And I have never experienced this specific scenario, but I know people who have. I've always been the one who, when my boyfriend has said, okay, hey, I'm going to go hang out with my friends, I've gotten very jealous because I didn't know how to be alone. This was also whenever I was like a lot younger too. I didn't know how to be alone, and I didn't know how to separate my time with my friends and like being alone, and then also my boyfriend, and then also being alone. So like the only time, like if I weren't hanging out with my boyfriend, it was not my decision. I wanted to hang out with him all the time. Like I just didn't care. Like all I wanted to do was hang out with him and be inside his skin. And obviously that's not healthy because I didn't know how to like be alone. He wanted to hang out with his friends, and I'm sitting here like, no, let me crawl inside of your skin and never leave because I can't be alone. So clearly that's not great behavior. And you don't do that, because thankfully in my situation, I had, I had friends that I had for a long time whenever I had said boyfriends. And thankfully, even though I maybe had ghosted them or didn't really hang out or talk to them as much, thankfully they were still there for me when we broke up. So, but that's not every situation. Not every your friend is going to still be there. And if they're not there whenever you and your partner break up, that doesn't mean that they were shitty friends or that they weren't your friends to begin with. That's just them setting boundaries and saying, I should be valued as a friend, and I deserve, attention to, and I deserve effort both ways. So, and I wasn't getting that. So you can't blame them for, not being there for you whenever shit hits the fan, especially if you were like really like ignoring them. Now, here's the difference though. I know many people who just aren't good at communicating. One of my good friends, I rarely talk to her, but I know she loves me and she knows I love her. Like, we will talk every once in a while, but that's just how our relationship is. And that's how she is for most of her long distance friends. She goes to school a couple hours away from me, and I have friends who are also friends with her who don't go to school with her right now. And, it's like, oh, have you heard from her? No, I haven't heard from her. Oh, okay. It's nothing personal. And I think that's different. It's when there's that immediate shift in behavior when you start dating someone. I think the best way to avoid doing this is to have these practices when you're just even in the talking stage. For me personally, I'm a very like physical, touchy, cuddly, tell me I'm pretty kind of lover. Like I want physical attention, and I want you to want me. So I think, and I haven't really, had a boyfriend for a little while now. So I'm interested to see after all this therapy how I'm going to be in my next relationship. Hopefully I have another relationship. I don't, I'm not single for the rest of my life, but it is what it is. Anywho, and anyways, a little self-deprecation, anxiety triggering right there. But I know that's not going to happen. And I know it's hard to have that balance of something that's really new and exciting, and then also something that you've had for a little while now, which would be your friends. And obviously, everyone loves new and shiny things. And so when you have that new shiny thing, aka, the person you're talking to or boyfriend, it is extremely easy to forget about the things that you've had for many years. And I just got a very sketchy text message from someone who's trying to hack me. Anyways, because I don't have a package, I didn't order anything. Yeah, so I think kind of just practicing those boundaries. And if your friends know that that's how you are in relationships, and how hard it is for you to, really separate that time, I think that if you have really good friends, they will also kind of guide you and remind you, like, hey, we're still here. Like, let's hang out, kind of like making those plans. And I know if you're a friend in this situation and your friend is ignoring you because they have a new boyfriend or girlfriend, and it's like, well, they're not putting any effort in. Why am I just putting in the effort? Sometimes people just, need extra effort in certain cases in order for them to get back into the spot where they were putting in, enough effort. And it sucks in the moment because you're not getting that effort back. And it's like your friend isn't nurturing that relationship as much as you are. But like, I think it's worth it in the end when your friend is, finally back from that honeymoon phase. So advice to the friends who are friends with people like me, where you have a hard time balancing friends and new relationships, the advice I give you is this. Cut them just a little bit of slack, but also don't settle. You have to set that boundary of what you will and won't put up with, like I say in most of my unsolicited advice videos. And it's important that you have those boundaries, but you also have to like realize, hey, okay, this is how she is. This is how my friend is. And she needs a little bit of a little push. She needs a little bit of a little shove. And that's just how it is. And you have to determine if you're going to, take it, basically. So, another thing is that if you're, don't worry about it, guys. Don't you worry about it. If your friends hate your boyfriend, I'll just use it in my terms, in my experience, but it could be whoever. If your friends hate your boyfriend, not because of jealousy, but because of his personality, that's a red flag. Now, if they hate him because of jealousy, then that's a red flag for I'd say that could be a red flag for your friends because, jealousy is more like a reflection of insecurity, but also they might just be jealous because you're not hanging out with them as much. So you also have to look at like, are they jealous of him because they're insecure or because I'm not putting in enough effort into my friendship with them? So, there's two sides to the coin. You have to kind of take a step back and realize, like, why do my friends hate my boyfriend? There could be a number of reasons. He could be an asshole, you could be an asshole, or they could just be insecure. So, and there's a bunch of stuff in between there. And then if your partner hates your friends because he's jealous, that's a red flag. Because, even if he hates their personality, I'll get into that. But if he hates your friends and he gets pissed off whenever you're hanging out with your friends, one, he doesn't know how to balance his relationships, then he should probably be listening to this podcast. Two, that is a reflection on his own insecurity and lack of trust. And also, if your partner is jealous of your friends, it can be a reflection of, it can be a reflection of so many things too. It really can. And the other side of it is if your partner is jealous or hates your friends because of your friends' personalities, you were friends with your friends first. Obviously, you get along with your friends because you have similar personalities and similar interests, and you have the same sense of humor, and you get along with them really well, platonically. If your partner doesn't like your friends because of their personality, that might be, his way of saying, hey, I hate your personality. Like if your partner hates your best friend because of your best friend's personality, you and your best friend have, I'm assuming probably very similar personalities, morals, ethics, interests, sense of humor, similar music tastes. Like you just get along with people who share the same interests as you. So if your partner hates your best friend's personality, then, or he thinks that she's annoying, then like, how does he not think you're annoying? That's just like an indicator of like, okay, let me put it in simpler terms because I'm rambling right now and I want to make my point crystal clear. Sorry, I thought someone was home. Okay, so you guys know how in the beginning, don't worry guys, I got this, hang on. So in the beginning of a relationship, you're not really your full true self. You don't know someone's true self the first 2 weeks of knowing someone. So say you're dating this guy and it's about a month into the relationship, he meets your best friend and he's like, wow, he's an ass. If he's saying, wow, she's annoying, he's an asshole and you should just stop him right there. But if you continue to listen to him and he says, wow, she's annoying, and or wow, she's a lot, I assume that the way your best friend is acting is how you would typically act. So basically, if I hope you guys are following along, basically, if 6 months from now, that's whenever you're your true self, as if you were with your best friend, wouldn't he think you're annoying? Because if he thinks your best friend's personality is annoying, then he's going to think you're annoying in about 6 months, because that'll be like your true self. Did that make sense? Because it makes a lot of sense in my head, because I'm picturing myself in this exact same, like, how embarrassing is this fucking dome lid? I'm about to take a drink of my $7 drink and I can't even carry it. I think I'm having a stroke. I can't even carry it without feeling like I have a scarlet letter embroidered on my chest hair. All right, we're going to move on to like your lovers and your family, like balancing those relationships. Now, let me preface by saying this can get really sticky because everyone's family backgrounds are extremely different and extremely complex. So I'm going to try my best to touch on multiple perspectives, not just my own, but I'm going to start out with my own so I can kind of get some point across. I have a very complex family, but I have a really good family. Like, my parents are divorced. I have stepsisters, and I have a blood related sister, and I have a huge family. So my family can get really complicated, but I have a good family. Like, I had a good home life, I had a good upbringing, and I'm very, very grateful and lucky for that. Not everyone has had that experience, and I understand that. I know people who haven't had a good upbringing, and I know people who have like no relationship with their mom or their dad. So I'm going to give it my first advice in this scenario with like a good family home and then a not so good relationship with your family. So first, if you have a good home life, you have, you're close with your family and you had a good upbringing and you are prioritizing your partner way more than your own family, this can get a little sticky. Now, there's a difference between you prioritizing your family or you prioritizing your partner over your family and your partner over your friends. Because if you have a good home life and you're close with your family they're not going to abandon you. They're going to still continue to love you. Is it going to suck whenever you're continuously choosing your boyfriend over your family? Yeah, probably, especially if, for example, the holidays are coming up and you're constantly choosing your boyfriend's family over your own family, going to their house for Thanksgiving, going to their house for Christmas, or whatever it may be. That it can kind of feel almost like a little bit of a betrayal because there isn't that balance. And I know it can be difficult, especially if, location can be a huge factor as well. But I think that also it depends on your age as well. Like in my past, when I had boyfriends, I still lived at home. So it was pretty easy to balance having a boyfriend and then also, still being with my family because I fucking lived with them. Now, as I'm getting older, I'm kind of picturing myself in this scenario where I'm having to choose between the two. And it can get, difficult because I've always struggled with managing my time between, my mom and my dad because they're two separate households. So I can only imagine what it's going to be like whenever I'm, I have my own house and I have to make actual decisions between my mom and my dad and then now my partner's family. And then if his parents are divorced, then we have to choose between his mom and his dad. And so it gets really difficult. And I think that if you have like a good foundation in your family, then they'll be understanding. They might, be a little sad that, you're not coming to Thanksgiving dinner, but you have to compromise and you have to balance it. And maybe next year you make a plan where you'll go to your family's Thanksgiving dinner the next year and kind of just rotate that. Or if you go to your boyfriend's family for Thanksgiving, you'll go to your family in Christmas. And so I think that that's really important, because family in this scenario of having like a good upbringing and, having that mutual respect, I think that it's really crucial to still nurture those relationships regardless of, how old you are. Now, in terms of balancing you and your partner's relationship versus your family's, and like when you aren't close with your family and there isn't that mutual respect and you didn't have a good upbringing and they just aren't nice to you, there's a big difference here. Because, for example, if you had a bad upbringing and you're not close to your family and you don't talk to them anymore, and you start dating this guy and he has a really, really great family and they welcome you in with open arms, that can now form to be your own family. And we find comfort in things, people, and places that make us temporarily forget about the trauma that we've experienced from our family. And so kind of replacing this also goes with like family versus friends. Your friends' family can feel like your family, especially if you didn't have a good home life. So whenever you don't have a good home life, growing up and you're not close with them anymore, and you find this newfound family, it can be like, that can open up a whole new portal, because now it's like you have a new mom, you have a new dad, and you maybe have like new siblings that love you in a way that you've never been loved before. And that can be extremely overwhelming. And that can also factor in to why you might not be balancing your friend relationships as well, because now it's like you have a new boyfriend, you have a new romantic relationship, and now you have also basically a new family. And it's like, that's a double whammy. And it's like, why wouldn't you want to be all consumed in that? So that is a like whole new factor to add into it. But again, you just have to take in consideration of like all that stuff. Like, you can't leave your friends in the dark, because if you do, then it's like, what do you have if it all falls apart? You don't have a family because you don't talk to your family anymore. So you still need to have like that support system of someone who isn't related to you, but you're still close enough with where it feels like family. But you're not going to break up with your friends if you keep nurturing that friendship, especially if you've been friends with them for so long. So, what else did I want to say about that? If you do have a close relationship with your family, but you are prioritizing your partner, that's something to consider. Yeah. So that kind of just goes back to my point where, if you have a good foundation with your family, they're going to understand that, this is just how life works. We meet new people and we form new relationships, and, same goes with your friends. Like, they should know that, but you can't put it all on them, because you also have to nurture those relationships and balance it. You can't just expect them to understand that, oh, she's in a new relationship, we haven't heard from her for 2 months though, but we get it. No, because I think by that point you should probably, like, you in the situation of being the one ignoring the friends, kind of realize, oh shit, like, what, do they hate me now because I haven't talked to them in forever? But if they're truly good friends, I think that in you have really good family and a good support system, I think that they'll be happy to hear from you. I don't think they'll be like, oh, here she is coming around. If you have mature, like, good friends, I think that they'll be like, oh, hey, like, I'm really glad to hear from you, instead of being kind of petty with it. And then kind of just going back to feeling comfort and finding comfort in other people and places that, make us temporarily forget about the trauma our family has caused. Kind of prioritizing your newfound family over your biological family doesn't make you a bad person, because I feel very guilty about a lot of the things I do, just because I worry so much about, my family's opinions. But you have to understand that relationships and balancing them goes both ways. If your family isn't, nurturing their relationship, if your mom isn't nice to you, if your dad isn't nice to you, you can't feel bad, because it's like, you tried, I'm assuming you tried to have a good relationship. And if they're not giving it, you don't have to give it back. Listen to my episode on how to not give a fuck, because if it goes both ways, you give a fuck, I give a fuck. And that's really what all of this advice always goes back to, is how to not give a fuck, because that talks about, really balancing the effort you give. And if, your friend isn't giving a fuck about you because they have a new boyfriend, but it goes on for like 3 months and you don't really hear or see them at all, like, you can't keep putting in effort that, like, you can't keep watering a dead plant, basically. So, and then lastly, just to touch on a little bit, family, balancing family and then friends. I think that this is probably the easiest one to do, because if you have friends that you've had for so long, they can feel like family. For example, my best friend I've been friends with since kindergarten, first grade. Our families were already friends, and then we grew up like right down the street from each other. So I've never had a hard time with balancing relationships like that, because they just feel like family. And I'm lucky enough to have a family who always welcomes in my friends. Like, my parents met my one good friend from college that I've not been friends with since kindergarten, but they welcome her in as if I had been friends with her for that long. So I don't think that there's really an issue with balancing those two relationships if you have a good foundation with your family. Now, if you have shit friends and you're prioritizing your shit friends over your family, and you're taking your shit friends' side on situations, you gotta address that. That's something you gotta work on. First of all, get rid of your friends. Find new friends. Hopefully your family is telling you, like, hey, you got shit friends. It's time to find some new ones, buddy. But, yeah, going back to kind of like if you had a bad home life, and similar to your partner's family, your family's friend or your friends' family can feel like a family. Same with what I was saying about a partner. Your partner's family can feel like your family, your newfound family, if you didn't have a good home life. And so I think that that's really important. I have a friend who, doesn't have like the same relationship I do with my mom. And my mom is kind of almost like her mom, in the sense of, having that emotional support and that advice to give, and the positive encouragement and stuff like that she didn't really get from her own mom. I think that's a really good thing to have. And I feel like if you have good friends and a good family, and you're lucky enough to have a good family, I don't think that balancing the two is going to be an issue, especially if you have, good friends. I just saw a cat run across the street. But I just think that to reflect a little bit, I think I'm just really lucky to have like a good family that understands if I'm kind of, I go missing for like 3 weeks. Not actually, but I'm all consumed. Whenever my most recent relationship a while ago, I hadn't told my family, like my mom and dad, that I was talking to someone, kind of dating him, but they understand me enough to the point where they were like, yeah, we haven't heard from you in a little bit. We just kind of figured, you were talking to someone, or, you got into a new relationship. And I was kind of like, yeah, sorry about that. And then that's kind of it. And then whenever they say that, then I'm more hyper aware about, making sure I'm still calling my mom and dad. And I think that the hardest one to balance is your friends and your partner, because both are really important to nurture and to balance, and it can be really difficult to balance those two, because you can't abandon your friends, but you also have this really, really new and exciting thing that you don't want to, spend a day without. And so, again, kind of just like telling your friends, if they're in the situation where they're kind of like forgetting about you, just being like, hey, haven't seen you, in a while. Like, if you have good friends, they'll tell it to you straight and be like, hey, I haven't seen you in a bit. I haven't talked to you in a little while. Like, let's go grab a drink. Let's go grab coffee and catch up, and I think that's really important whenever you see your friend kind of forgetting about their friendships. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, so I guess I'll talk to you guys in another episode sometime about, the other things that I want to balance, like to talk about the balancing for beginners. I'm trying to see if I can pull up like the other things. Oh, perfect. Balancing school versus work. That can also be really difficult. The relationships, valuing alone time versus socializing, which can also be really hard. And like I said, seeing the good people versus still recognizing their red flags. So those are just some topics that I kind of have in mind and that I'll eventually talk about along with my other series that I have. A guide to. I did a guide to hookup culture. So if you have any, things you want me to talk about for either of those, let me know. Shoot me a DM, little comment of somewhere on anywhere. But yeah, thank you for listening. If you want, you can subscribe to the podcast's YouTube channel, just Argue with the Wall. Follow me on Instagram at Lily M. Fry. Also follow the pod on Instagram at Argue with the Wall, but the with is a W. You can rate the pod wherever you're listening. And that's about it. I'm out of breath. And I also have a meeting in 10 minutes. So I'm going to skedaddle out of here. I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.